In today's first reading, we see the people of Israel looking wistfully back at their time of slavery in Egypt and longing for that time, because at least there they were able to eat well, whereas in the desert they're struggling and starving. We might find this rather strange, that the Israelites should wish to return to a life of slavery, having worked so hard for their freedom. But such is human nature. All too often, we prefer the comfort and luxury afforded us by a life of enslavement to sin, rather than the hard work that it takes to maintain the freedom that we have been given as the children of God. Often, when we start the spiritual journey, we start off with much zeal, filled with consolation by the Lord, just as the Israelites were full of joy as they left Egypt, their land of enslavement. However, as we go along our spiritual journey and find that we have to do battle with our inner demons and the external forces that threaten our inner freedom, we start to lose energy and lose hope. It often seems to us like climbing an interminable mountain. I'm sure for all of you who have done a bit of mountain climbing, you will know the experience of going uphill and seeing what you think to be the top just a few meters away. And perhaps you're filled with such a desire that hardship and hardness of the incline should be over, that you race towards what you think is the top, only to discover that it's not the top, and there's still more incline, more hard work to do, more climbing to get to that top. And suddenly you realize that you don't know where the top is, that it could still be far away. And perhaps you feel like giving up. Perhaps you feel like going down again, rather than going towards what seems to be an interminable summit. It's at such times as these that we need to pace ourselves and conserve our energy and take it step by step, day by day. In these situations, what God does is not to promise us that the top is near. This would be deceptive of God if it is indeed the case that the summit is far away from us. Instead, what God does is God gives us the energy we need to take the next step, to take it day by day, and to trust that God will get us there in the end. And perhaps at these times, when we seem to be climbing and it's an uphill battle, to continue being faithful, to continue struggling on in the hardship that we are experiencing, we might take consolation from the fact that even though we can't see the summit, even though we don't know when we're going to get that vista of a view and life is going to be a downhill ride, God can see the summit. And God knows how much energy we need for each day to get us there. This was the lesson that God tried to teach the Israelites when they were in the desert. And this is why God forbade them from collecting more manna than what they could consume in one day. If the Israelites were tempted to collect more manna and hoard it so that they would have a stock of it, it simply went bad and decayed, and by the next day was not edible. This is a powerful lesson for us, how when we decide to trust God, we cannot do it in half measures. We must either go all in or not at all. There cannot be a hybrid middle way between half trusting in God and half trusting in our own energy, devices, and skill and intelligence. This is not to say that we shouldn't use our own intelligence, skill, and energy. What it is to say, though, is that at the beginning of each day, we must lay our intelligence, skill, and energy at the foot of the cross as we discern the way that God would like us to go. Because trusting in God does not mean that we will get a free lunch every day. Last week in last week's gospel, we saw Jesus providing the crowds on the hillside of the Lake of Tiberias with a free lunch. And in this week's gospel, we see them coming back to him in Capernaum, seeking him out, wanting another free lunch. And Jesus admonishes them and says, "Do not work for the food that perishes, rather work for the food that endures into eternal life." What is this food that Jesus is talking about? I think it's precisely this ability to trust in God, to know that material comfort and luxury here on earth will not satisfy the hunger that we have within us. Rather, we are invited to realize that Jesus is the bread of life and gives us this bread by inviting us into the same trusting relationship that he had with his Father. It is only this trust, only this knowledge that God gives us the strength that we need day by day to get through the tasks that are set before us as we journey towards our ultimate end, which is communion and life with God. It is this trust that is the bread that comes from heaven, because it is this trust that will allow us, even in times of hardship, even when the going is tough, to remain joyful, peaceful, knowing that God will see us into the promised land, just as he did the people of Israel. God bless and have a good Sunday.